today I'm gonna do a quick video on text-to-speech and using AI technology to actually help you out and do a lot of the stuff that before you'd have to pay voiceover actors and everything to do. And yeah, it's not really my field in a sense, but it is very good when you're an author to be able to have a voiceover done for you, stuff like that, because it does cost quite a bit and it takes a lot of time to actually get those things done. Mind the hiccups, my medication means I have permanent hiccups for about 2 weeks now. Yeah. Anyway, so I found that after Google's I/O shindig went down, everybody was on how Google is about to take over, and they showed examples of Google's original for text-to-speech. It was calling people, and that was back a few years ago, and how revolutionary it was. And then recently they have Bark, which is actually pretty good, but Bark has a lot of background noise to it, so it doesn't sound professional. Like if you're using a voiceover, for voiceover, it's not going to sound professional at all. Like it's just, but that's just how that is. So this time I tried the Google one. The Google Cloud one is a little bit, it's not as good as the other ones, ironically enough, because with the Google Cloud one, when you wanted to speak in a natural voice, you have no control over it. It just speaks as if a person is speaking. It doesn't give you the option to be a voice that's presented or anything like that. You can do slight tweaks such as the pitch and the tone a little bit, but that's about it. And the speed at which the voice speaks overall. But you can't edit the lexicons or anything like that. And I actually did one yesterday where I edited the lexicon. I will actually show you on here. So the video I did yesterday, I actually did the edit for the lexicon. And yeah, I don't mind it. I don't use it. So this, as you can see, is actually the voiceover script. It looks good. This is not an incorrect error. This is the lexicon. So I will change it here and just show you really quickly. If I do here and I over to the pronunciation, I can edit it here. Okay, we're back. I had a little bit of technical difficulties because my internet was acting up. But anyway, we're back to here, and it's gonna show you a little bit of how this is different from the Google version. The Google version has none of this actual interface. It's only you put it in and you select the voice, like they have a voice selector, and then you can select stuff like the pitch and the rate and volume, and that's about it. Google does the rest because Google uses the natural voice, just like these say N for natural voices. That's what it's gonna use. But see, like this
live.
That's not the correct one. It's supposed to be live, not live. So you could go down here and edit the pronunciation, delete the pronunciation, and then you just enter it back yourself, which is
Live.
it becomes live. So you hit done. Now it's on the line red, and when I play it,
Live.
it says live now instead of live. And little things like that actually make it a whole lot more useful. But I'm going to show you what the script for today is. This is this one. And we're going to convert it into an actual voiceover that an author can use in a few minutes. It works better in Edge. So copy and paste your text in. Doesn't you select the voice, because for some reason it always does that. Select the voice, and now you have this. Now if I hit play, you can see the total length is come up. Second.
Welcome to our channel, a space where introspection and self-reflection intertwine.
Now you can see that the total length for the entire thing is going to be 1 minute 53 seconds. Just fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But first, you want this to be a voiceover, which means you're going to have to change some things. In order to sound like it's being read by a person who's read verbatim. The first thing you probably want to do is you're going to probably add some breaks. So usually I add the strongest break after the intro. I add another one after the title. That is long. I'm to the end of the poem, and I add another of the strongest breaks at the end of the poem. So now this already broke up the poem into different segments, showing this is the start, this is the middle, this is the end. Now, for me, what I usually do is this part, I usually want it to be read a little bit faster. Not faster to the point where you notice it, but just a little bit faster. So here, I'm going to increase the rate, increase the rate by 1. That's not enough for you to really notice, but it is actually just enough to make it sound slightly different as in a person reading it, then them go and switch it over into like an announcer. So we're going to speed these parts up by just 1. That makes those parts read. Maybe it'll take about a half a second to 1 second more to read this entire thing versus normal rate. Now for the poem itself, the poem is a poem, so you want poems to be read a little bit lower for 1. And then you want them to be read a little bit slower. So we're going to select the entire poem. And what we're going to do is we're going to deepen the voice, which is the pitch, and we're going to bring the pitch down by 2. Not a huge difference, not enough to make the voice start to chip or anything like that, but just enough to make it seem as though they're paying a little bit more focus on the poem. We're also going to bring the poem's overall speed to, we're going to bring the relative speed down to 98. So that's going to slow the entire poem read speed down just a little. Now it's ready. Now it's ready for something. I'm going to come back here, which is the title, Living With Yourself. I'm going to lower the speed down even more so he speaks the title slower than the rest of the poem. And then from here, I'm going to basically just go from every other line. So the title, then the first line is at 90, which is fine. So the next line after that, I'll bring to 97, slow it down a little bit more. And then after that, I'm going to push it back 99. And do quick reads through the poem as I go. I'm going to change each line to have a different speed, which annotates human-like reading, because when you take your breath, you change the rate at which you speak. It doesn't always stay the same. By doing that, I can actually even emphasize certain ones or sections. By doing that, I can emphasize certain lines, and then I can go back up to what other lines are. Some of them I'll leave at the 98, which is the baseline for the poem. Others I'll put a little bit faster. When it goes into a more cheerful mood, I'll put it a little bit faster, then I'll bring it back down again. Then when he asks the question here, I'll bring it down even more to slow it down a little bit more. Bring it up again for the answer. Leave this one to the baseline. And then I usually like to end the poem off so I did when it started. And that's it. That will do the entire voice read. Now I can get back up here and just hit play.
Welcome to our channel, a space where introspection and self-reflection intertwine with the power of poetic expression. Today, we delve into the profound poem, Living With Yourself. an introspective journey through guilt, remorse, and the quest for inner peace. Join us as we navigate the complexities of the human condition and the struggle to come to terms with our past actions. Through these poignant words, we explore the path of forgiveness, redemption, and the unwavering belief in our capacity to grow and evolve. Living with yourself. I've seen many things, done many more. Thought I'd never be found out, but what's the score? I'm right, I was never caught. But now I must live with the guilt, a heavy thought. Each day and night, every hour and minute. Every second, I must live with my sins, infinite. They torment my mind and soul. My wrongs, my mistakes, they take their toll. How can I live with what I've done? I cannot, for I am not the only one. My Creator, above the sky, looks down on me, and I wonder why. I ask but one thing, help me live with myself. He looks down on me with compassion, a wealth. I am worth life, I must believe in forgiveness, redemption, and the power to achieve. As we conclude this introspective exploration with living with yourself, remember that each of us carries the weight of our choices, yet we also possess the ability to seek redemption and find peace within. Let us embrace the journey of self-acceptance and growth, understanding that mistakes do not define us but serve as catalysts for transformation. If this poem resonated with you, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and hit the like button. Share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this profound.
I paused it just so you can see this is the new total time, 2 minutes and 7 seconds. The original time was 1 minute and 53 seconds, but a couple changes, and now the poem sounds more read like it's read by a person, and it's a little bit slower, the parts a little faster, but it's not all the one single monotone voice. And then I can just hit high quality and export, and that's it. I export this to my local disk. I usually do MP3. You do the whole thing, it generates the whole file as one output, but if you want multiple outputs, you can use each package. Now, the reason I chose to use Azu, it is the Microsoft version over the Google one, because the Google one doesn't give you this much control. You can't go to line by line controlled voice. You can, and you can't at the same time. You can with the SSML, which is a speech synthesis markup language. However, the natural speech voices that sound near human do not use SSML voices. You can't input text with that. It doesn't read it and it doesn't understand it. Instead, using breaks and things like that, you can separate and pause speeches, and you can speed up and slow down each thing as you go along, which makes it a lot easier to use this version versus the Google version. Now, the reason I know why this one is easier to use versus the Google version is this one is geared towards people. As a Microsoft, it's not geared generally only towards heavy businesses, it's geared towards individual users and businesses alike, because that's kind of how Microsoft got started. The small individual businesses is what actually got them going. So this is a same cloud platform, just like Google's, because it uses the same cloud AI kind of platform and layout, except they already built their own speech synthesis system into their cloud platform. Whereas Google, they just have a preview, which is ironic because the Google version is much older than this one, about 2 years older. Wait, I might be mistaken, but it is quite a bit older. I used that one before I even heard of this one. Years ago. It was good, but it was too robotic, so I never really made anything with it. Their new voices actually are much better, and they're pretty easy to use, seeing that they have voices from The major companies right now are all deep voices that were originally researched by Google. Ironically enough, Microsoft Izu actually uses the same voice as Morph, or Morph uses the input from Microsoft to convert their speech to text. Your layout on Morph is pretty similar. Their price point is actually quite a bit higher. Their price point for Morph is actually way higher than it is for Microsoft. I think it's about 20 times the price. Because as you can see, 15,000 characters is free to me to use every month, and then I pay per character. Million characters after that, whereas the Murph, you're getting 5,000 characters for free, and then it's like $29 for 10,000, 50,000 characters, and then $50 for unlimited, which means you're paying about 10 times the price than if you just went directly to Microsoft's actual one. And they have quite a few voices, like more voices than anyone I've seen so far. And in different languages and everything. A lot of these languages don't have very good accents, but they tried. I will probably be making another video posting some of the Microsoft versus Google software that's currently out for the AI world, because Microsoft and Google have decided to go head to head. A lot of the internet is saying Google has turned everything around and Google is on top now. But if you've used any of the AI software that Google has versus what Microsoft has, and you look at the history, you will realize quite quickly, and it'll be quite obvious that Microsoft and Google, the AI battle that they pretty much erupted into, is not really a fair fight. Microsoft's been working pretty hard, it seems, on their AI technology without being overly covert about it. They're letting people test it. They're just trying to move forward as best as they can. While Google is being covert about everything, they're trying to keep everything on the hush and quiet, trying to be the owner of all the AI technology so they can monopolize it like they did Google. But it didn't work out in their favor. With the introduction of OpenAI, that company decided that they're not going to try Google's route. They're going to make everything open and try to develop as fast as possible, which left Google in the background so quickly. Microsoft has partnered with AI because they saw that, and they're leading the industry. First of all, their speech synthesis software is already leaps ahead of Microsoft. Yeah, if you want Google, you can control your speech synthesis a little bit better with markup language, but in order for you to do that, in order for you to get any kind of control like this from the voice, you would actually have to design an entire program. You'd have to have an entire layout, entire outline going, you need code, you need to implement it on their server, you would need bins, you need storage space. You'd have to pay for a ton of stuff just so you can get this simple output that I have now. And it would be ridiculous. You end up paying like $400 to get something to this level, which you wouldn't from Microsoft, because you don't need all that from Microsoft. You don't buy it. If you wanted to just synthesize something and download it, then you pay for just the processing power, synthesizing it and downloading it. You're not paying for storage space or anything like that, which is why Microsoft, I think, has been able to get ahead of Google when it comes to that, because they're charging their customers for what they want to do, and they're making it much easier and much more user-friendly than Google is, because most of the Google Cloud AI systems right now, you need to know a little bit of programming to use it. Then we come to the other stuff, like the image generations that both Google and Microsoft are doing. Microsoft has DALL-E, and Google has partnered with Adobe, the giant image manipulation, but Adobe Firefly is kind of introduction to image generation. It's slow. It is very cookie cutter. It's very controlled. Just kind of like you using Photoshop in a sense. You can't get anything unique very easily. Whereas Dolly is much more advanced, especially when you consider that when Google did its I/O intervention to announce that they're partnering with Adobe, Dolly had updated and was integrated more closely with OpenAI's ChatGPT, which advances the Dolly prompt reception so that you can actually type more stuff and it will understand what you're saying a little bit better than what Google and Adobe has. In fact, the Dolly one is a little bit more intuitive than even Midjourney. Midjourney's art prompts and output still comes out better. This only because Midjourney has better generation, so it looks nicer on Midjourney. But Dolly seems to be following along what the user wants a little bit more than it does. Granted, it still comes out better on Midjourney if you just take a little bit more time. So as it is, Microsoft is actually pulling way ahead of this whole AI race that Google is. In fact, Google, as of now, keeps on announcing things every other day, and a lot of the stuff that they've announced is not very up to par in comparison to what's actually already out. For instance, Brad is Google's version of ChatGPT. It is a functional system, but Brad is basically Google Assistant with a little bit more into it. You cannot have a conversation with Brad. You can't train Brad to do anything. You can't do any kind of back and forth with Brad. It seems as though every time you input a question, when it answers that question, it goes back to a start over. It's waiting for a new prompt, a new everything, or it will try and continue from what you asked before. But you must specify that you're continuing from the last question. For instance, I talked about how I was doing a research paper or going over the corrections for a research paper I was working on with Brad versus ChatGPT. Brad, I stopped after about a minute because every question I asked kicked back the, oh, I'm just an AI model, I'm not sure, or this is not something an AI language model can do. But I'm actually asking it to do calculations. I'm not asking for anything else. Whereas when I did it with ChatGPT, it just went straight into kicking back calculations. That's all it kicked back. Just numbers and numbers and numbers. Some of it I didn't really want that many numbers, but at the same time, it kicked back all the numbers I would need for anything, which made it a lot easier. It did about 10 hours in a couple minutes because it just gave back numbers and formulas for everything I was doing. And I even tried to put some of that formulas into Brad to see if I could get a similar result. And I would get an answer, but it wouldn't be the answer. It wouldn't be the correct answer. In other words, I was putting in calculating how much water is being held in a certain space and how fast I would need pumps to flow and stuff like that. And Brad would only get me back one of the answers. It wouldn't tell me, okay, this is how much water is there based on what you are asking. This is how you calculate how much water you're going to need, and this is how you calculate how much the flow rate is going to be. It would only give me either how much water is going to be there or what the flow rate is. It wouldn't actually answer the entire question at once. So Brad is very intuitive and it's very smart. A little bit smarter than OpenAI version because it has more access to the internet currently, but at the same time, it is like a child. It can't process any kind of complicated question for me, and you can't go back and forth with it. It's like a 2-year-old with ADD. It answers your question because it knows the answer, but then it moves on to something else that it's doing on its own. I asked Brad to write stuff for me, and like it completely ignores what I asked it to do. It reads what I send it, and then it writes what it feels like, which kind of isn't the point of asking it to do something for you if it's just do what it wants to. So in that sense, the war between AIs companies is kind of not going in the way everyone keeps on saying it's going, because everyone keeps saying Google is going to be the next big thing. But right now, Google is the hardest kind than any other AI company out there. They're lagging behind heavily. Their software is old, and it's the same software they've been using for years. So, and one of the reasons is for that is because Google is trying to get more money out of the AI and thoughts in the AI. So they're trying to implement the AI towards corporate buyers instead of the individual people, which is funny because right now corporate buyers are not the ones that are funding most of the AI research. Individuals are. With OpenAI, there are more individual users using OpenAI than there are corporations using Midjourney. There are more individual users, such as artists, using Midjourney than there are big companies using it for things like web design, logo design. Pepsi just went into trying to use Stable Diffusion, which AI generated art. Just wanted to do that this month. Whereas AI generation's been around gaining popularity for months and getting funding from all these small creators and small people. But now Pepsi, a big company, is now trying, or Coke, is now trying to be part of it. And Google is waiting on the big guys to get into behind them and funding their AI versus the little people, which, in my opinion, is what's going to cause Google to be taken off its throne pretty quickly. And I'm very looking forward to them because Google, as of late, has been trying to keep too much stuff on the wraps and trying to be controlling of too many of the industries and small things that go on in the technology world versus other companies which want to revolutionize technology. Google's been stepping back and trying to stay with censorship and control of this and this and this, when other companies are trying to open up the internet and the knowledge that's going on, the ability to spread knowledge much faster, easier than Google is. For instance, you search on Google before the top 10 results is what you wanted. Now the top 10 results is just ads. It has nothing to do with what you want, which is fine. You need to make money, but at the same time, you can't put the entire first page as just ads. There's no longer a relevance to Google search. Even if you use Google Maps now, you search Google Maps, I've had it happen time and time again where I enter a place that I want to go, click enter, start navigating, arrive, and Google took me to a place that was an ad instead of the actual destination. I actually got annoyed once because I put to go to Sam's Club because I didn't know where the Sam's Club was. And I showed up at a Publix that was closed because Publix was already closed for the day. I was like, why am I here? I'm going back, and I go back to my destination, and my search says Sam's, but my navigation is navigating to Publix, which doesn't make any sense. I've even had it, which is funny, where I go Wendy's because I'm fairly close to Wendy's, because Wendy's is more common where I am. So I'm heading to Wendy's, and I'm like, wait, I'm going the wrong direction. I know Wendy's is close, but this can't be it. And I go back to the navigation. I go back, I hit back to see what my destination is actually set to, and it's just Chick-fil-A, which is great, because it's Sunday. Yes, it's take me to Chick-fil-A on Sunday, the only day Chick-fil-A's. Yeah, so that's Google's plan. If it can make them a little bit of money, they're going to push that before usability, which is why, as of now, and my prediction, which seems to be coming too faster than I can even get them out, is showing that Google's about to start losing big time in the AI battles because they're focused too much on making a profit before they make it usable and friendly. Whereas if you looked at Midjourney, there companies like Midjourney, especially, is a prime example of one of the ones that took off in the is they focused on usability, and they offer free services. And then they offer mid-tier upgrades to people that would want to support them, but at the same time, they weren't like professional. So, like, I use the cheapest version of Midjourney because I'm not a professional, and I don't really want to do it professionally because there's not much in Midjourney that I can use in the sense of what I want it for. I actually want Midjourney to make a comic book, but it's really hard to do that right now. But I'm still going to keep my Midjourney subscription. I'm still going to continue to pay the $10 a month to make the smaller images that I need for my YouTube videos and the stories and the graphics that I like until they implement something that makes it easier to make something like a comic book or continue to roll with the same character. Then I will gladly upgrade my tier server because then it'll be more than worth it to me. Considering that I paid a couple $100 for 2 comic book pages and it's just a few pages and it takes a long time. So being able to do something like that myself, or if I can invest 10 minutes a day to make one page and continue to move on, it would much more be worth it. So right now, based on Google's actions and the way Google is functioning versus the way Microsoft's functioning, Microsoft is already moving ahead. And a lot of other companies are coming out of the woodwork and they're headed following Microsoft and their journey, and companies like this with OpenAI to try and be a little bit more open and try to get, well, their funding basically from end users instead of corporations, which in my opinion is going to be the best thing, because with so many end users being the people that fund it, you're going to end up with products and software that are more friendly to users instead of just corporations. Which is going to be another thing that's going to change the interface of the internet and the way we work as we know it, from having a more corporate outline to a more individual outline. Besides AI technology becoming more prominent and more used in the business world, less and less corporations are going to be able to dictate every single thing about the corporate world, because they're no longer going to be the ones that are driving the direction AI is moving, but instead the workforce is going to be driving the direction AI is moving, and they're going to be driving the direction technologies advance, which should be the way it is, because that'll make it easier for everybody to use not just AI technology, but all technology in general, and it'll make advancements a little bit faster. Because I can't wait for ChatGPT to get another upgrade to extend its token rate, so I can actually work on that same research paper and redo that research paper. A lot more in-depth work, probably end up with a 200-page research paper into forest redesign, so that maybe you can start helping change things like global warming from easier perspective, that you don't have to, because now I don't have to wait on thousands of dollars to do a lot of this research that I wanted to do. I did a lot of the research in minutes. So a little bit more tokens on ChatGPT would open up a lot more usability and a lot more ease to collect the data and combine data that is would normally take months time to do. I can compile all that data on my own instead of with a research. I can actually have a working proposal that I can implement myself to start testing with very little money. And who knows, things like fixing global warming, working on the crisis of gas and CO2 emissions that everyone's so concerned about. All these things can actually start being changed by individuals that no longer need an entire team, because now you have an idea and you can have all the data you need at your fingertips, and you can have all answers in minutes instead of months and years. So I can't wait to see how companies, especially like ChatGPT and OpenAI and Midjourney, are going to look to redo the future, because Google is dead center. Google is last century, and it's time to move on to a different thing, because no one's going to be talking about Google in a couple of years, because they're just going to be a search engine, and they're going to fall right back into being a search engine, because they cannot keep up with what the actual society needs. And anyway, I've babbled on for quite a bit, and I'm gonna start actually editing the videos and stuff and getting back to work. So I'll see you guys in the next video. See what's possible later.